Welcome back, Ocoee region. We're so glad you stayed tuned and you came back for more with Dr. Louise. I'm telling you, isn't he wonderful? You should really see us when we're personally talking and the hands are going and everything else. But I really want you to get to know him today. That first segment was really good, but I want you to, because we have some deep conversation about all the things he does as the Polymath Prof, okay? And he just gave that definition of what that is. So let's talk about some of all these things that God has gifted you with.
God is wonderful, Tony. What shall we say, right?
He is.
Keep the enthusiasm going, right?
Yes, he's all of that and a bag of chips. Yes, he is. So, I mean, he's downloaded so much revelation to you about technology, about these things. But I share with people what Polymath Prof does and what are all the things that you are passionate about, that God really has you sharing revelation to a lot of us who don't have that knowledge.
You may have that knowledge. You have to find out. Maybe
Yes,
you do.
You might have it. Yes, yes.
But the good God has been very good to me, Tony, in so many different ways.
Yes.
And the reason why I use the term Polymath Prof is because polymath, right, the Renaissance man, is the person who can do a little bit of art, a little bit of science. They're competent in those areas.
Yes.
Not too many people know this, so then I'm going to keep that as a secret.
Okay.
All right? Secret.
Yes.
But in my former life, right? Well, I shouldn't say former life because I still am a certified golf pro.
That's right.
So I'm a sportsman. I was raised in golf competition as a sportsman. And that's part of Luis's life, right? Dr. Ocoee, whatever you want to call me. And then there is the academic part, which is more of the scientific part, the social science guy. That's the science. But I'm also a photographer. Now there is a little bit of the art in there, right? And then there is the religious part. Now there is the theology. So when we start looking at some of those skill sets, then I say, what would be a cool way to brand a professor differently? Because professors, by tradition, are experts in one area.
Yes.
So, like physicians, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if you think about medicine, we have also seen general practitioners.
Yes.
Have we not?
Yes.
So I say, can I be a general practitioner of higher education with a concentration in communication? That was something that I thought about. And so I say, well, let's build a campaign on that. The person who gives speeches. So now we'll talk about a little bit about speech communication.
Yes.
The person who maybe grow accounts on social media. Now we're talking about a person who understands the new media, right? Or maybe for a person who can talk about culture. Now we'll talk about intercultural communication.
Yes.
Or the researcher. So it's not just one area. We're talking about different areas within the field, which right now, I am focusing a little more on social media. I'm putting a lot of,
Yes, you are.
a lot of effort and time in those things to be able to make that almost like a specialty, which wasn't really the plan, but things in life work in a way that sometimes lead us to go to that path.
Right.
But in spirit, I see myself as a Polymath Prof.
Okay. I love that. I love that definition. So you're a researcher.
Yes. And by the way, if I can interrupt you
yes,
very quickly.
Yes, this is you and me.
Yeah, there you go. Is that a lot of folks believe, well, Luis is this guy who talks about tech and moderation. That's true.
Yes.
That's true. But there is also the other side of the fence. Luis is also the guy who looks also the positive sides of technology for instruction, something called instructional communication. Right?
Okay.
How are we going to be able to produce good communication and instruction for folks to be able to learn better?
Yes.
So there is also that side of the fence. I just want to say that.
That's all right. That's all right. And interrupt me anytime. Because, I'm going to have you back so we can talk about all these different things that you work in.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
what prompted this was our whole conversation about this.
Yeah, it can be a problem.
Well, you know what? And earlier we were talking about with Restoration Ranch about connection.
Yes.
And connecting, and people are not connecting like they used to. This is a
Differently.
Well, they're connecting differently, yes.
Yeah.
This is a great tool.
Yes.
But, and I guess I'm one of these people, I love to have conversations, sit across from someone and give them my attention.
Yes.
And connect person to person instead of having this third party in between us and we talk through this.
Understand.
Okay? Because there are some things missing. I don't care how many emojis you come up with. There are things that are missing out of the communication that goes on. I mean, the tone, the nonverbal pieces. I don't care how many emojis you use. It doesn't do that. So let's talk about how this impacts our lives and how we can still use this as a great tool.
But I like what you're saying there, Tony, because basically what you're saying is that you like to communicate interpersonally.
Yes.
Maybe in small groups.
Yes.
Because you're also able to read nonverbal behavior.
Yes.
And we cannot fake nonverbal behavior, right? Now, folks can fake what they write, but not cannot fake it's nonverbal. We can see it because it's done unconsciously, right? This is a well-known area of communication studies, by the way, right?
Okay.
And so there is that component of why I understand. Now, we're talking about the cell phone. This is what we call mediated communication, right?
Okay.
We're doing communication through media. And without question, we're going to be losing some of that human heat that we have in here right now, that we have that feeling, that conversation. It's really not the same there. Not to say that you can't communicate, because that's also something that I hear. Oh, you can.
Yeah.
It's just communicate differently.
Yes.
Right? But maybe for us who grew up in an era where we know what good interpersonal communication is, the human heat that we get, right?
Yes.
We connect. I think we connect very well.
Yes.
Can you imagine if we met here? Oh, we can do that.
No.
It can happen.
No.
So, but not very easily, I should say.
Right.
And so, what I think folks have to realize, all right, and I'm not the only person saying this, by the way. I'm saying maybe this here in Cleveland, maybe a little more than others, but I'm not the only person who is saying that we have to be very careful with how we use this thing here, what we call the smartphone, right?
Right.
Because of some of the side effects that is happening in our society. Here in Cleveland, Tennessee included, so issues of depression, issues of anxiety, issues of being fake.
Yes.
Right? For the sake of fame, quotation marks, fake in the sake of fame. There is value in being authentic.
Yes.
In when you're authentic in one medium, why should you be authentic in all mediums? I'm big on authenticity. Be self-aware of the things that you do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we need to be self-aware offline and online. Right?
Yes.
So those are some of the conversations that maybe we should have with our kids more than anybody, because they grew up in an era where this, right?
It's primary.
It's primary, exactly. We call them the digital natives, and we're digital immigrants. I mean, you can go in detail on the, the terminology.
Right.
But having a good conversation, you know, Tony. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a keynote, if I can say this, here on the show, just to announce to the viewers. I'm going to be talking at Michigan Avenue Elementary School, exactly on that topic, and some of the positives of technology, some of the negatives of technology,
right?
And how we should be, as parents, right, responsible for how we raise our kids to use this in moderation.
Yeah.
And I'm not a physician, not a psychologist. I cannot talk with that much authority with data in that area. Right. I have opinions about it. My data, by the way, that's what the researcher comes, is actually the use of this technology for instruction in the proper way. So that's the research part. But when I talk about technical moderation, I'm serving the community, trying to say, hey, pay attention to that. Maybe there is something that you have to pay attention to. I leave the data for the psychologists, for the physicians, right? Because I'm not them. So we have to be self-aware about the things that we are and the things that we are not. So as a person who cares about this community here in Cleveland, I want to just share my opinions on things. That one is something that I have seen evidence, because when I'm at the university, not just here at Lee, I've seen kids coming, they come crying to my office, right? Sometimes there's different ways on how kids express some of those side effects that technologies may be giving them, and I care.
Yeah,
so,
I know you do.
Yeah, and then I say, well, maybe there is something that we can do there as a community to be aware of some of those consequences. That's really what my heart is. That's why I wrote those columns for the band for so long.
Well, I know you and I had a conversation about, and you have to probably, I wanted to bring this out here, but it was what we fail to realize is that our interaction with this phone is developing into a robotic syndrome. So can you explain that to people? Because when you said that to me,
you understood.
Yes, I
understood.
So I'm implementing some stuff where less time is here and really disconnecting from this and becoming more self-aware of the possibility of an addictive behavior to some of the social media and things like that. So, because Father God kept telling me, saying to me, how are you using your time? And so, and then just watching families interact, and everybody sitting with their phones and they're scrolling, but they're not really interacting with one another. They're in the room, but they're not interacting. But that robotic syndrome, that really resonated with me. So I would like for everybody to hear about that.
All right, since you asked. Let me just say something before addressing this, because it's part of this conversation. What most people don't know is that I have been using computer technology for so long. When I was a kid, my dad was an innovator, right? So he gave me all this technology. Since I was a kid in the 80s in Brazil, early on, talk about the TRS-80, the Apple I, the Apple II. I've went to all of those iterations of technology. And by the way, when I use the word technology in public, it's one definition, because most people think that this is technology, right?
Right.
Because we refer technology as a cell phone or a tablet. But in reality, cell phones and tablets are not just what technology is. And Heidegger, which is this philosopher, right, has written an article called That Technology May Be Nothing Technological. Like your clothing is technology, your glasses are technology. But in academic sense, I speak that way. But for the public, I use the definition of technology as we all understand to not confuse people. But anyhow, so you're talking about robotic behavior. Now, this is something that I have a deep passion for, because I burned out when I was a little younger by using this technology so much. And I find it funny that today, right, folks agree with me in a lot of ways that, maybe there is so much, we're using this too much and it's causing us problems. I said that back in the day in academic conferences, and they literally crucified me, Tony. I lost friends after this. I am not kidding you. And I say, God, right? Why is this happening to me? Why did I go through this? And I start thinking critically about it. It's nothing more than a model. Now we'll call it a cycle, but it started as a model. Now it's a cycle of human-robot behavior, right? Where what I have observed over time, which is part of research, by the way, I just didn't test it yet, but what I have observed is that folks are constantly on a cell phone. And I created a parallel to how the machine behaves, right? For example, a computer. Remember back in the day when we used to give commands to the computer,
yes,
and the computer would give you something back?
Right.
Dear /S.
S. Yes.
Enter. And then you get commands in the DOS system back
Right.
in the day, right?
Back in the day.
Before the graphic user interface.
Right.
And you give a command, the computer gives a command back. Because it's how a computer behaves, right?
Right.
You send a command, and then you're going to get a response back.
Right.
And I started creating a parallel between how folks communicate with this thing, right? By sending you a text message. If you don't give me a text message back, and say, why didn't you reply?
Right.
Even if it's 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, maybe there is a parallel there. You see what I'm saying?
It is.
So then, could it be that the more that a subject interacts with a computerized device, the more computer-like they become without ever realizing? And I start realizing that maybe this could be happening to our society. Before Apple introduced a screen time app to let you be aware of what's happening. And even then, Tony, I'm going to put this on TV for folks to hear, because I have heard that. Folks start to justify why they use technology so much. Isn't it true?
Yeah, it is.
I'm just saying this as an observer.
Yes.
Because maybe, just maybe, we're becoming robotic in behavior because we are using this technology here so much. Technology in the sense of cell phones for public consumption, right?
Yep.
Maybe this is happening. We're not becoming the next RoboCop or anything like this, or the Terminator, by looking like, but we'll be maybe behaving more like one. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm just saying that this may be happening. So this is what I observe. So the role of the research is also to observe and take notes, right?
Right.
So I created a model that literally explains what happens when folks start using those computerized devices so much.
Yeah.
Which the idea is so out there, right, that I end up putting that into a publication that I created. It's so off topic. I don't have data for this. This is an idea. It's an observation. It's an idea based on observation, not based on data. So, but some folks are starting to see that. When I spoke for the Cleveland CMA, for the Cleveland Media Association,
Yes.
Folks say, wow, this is what I have. And I say, well, maybe. I'm not saying that you do, but maybe something's happening. So maybe we should be paying attention to that.
Yes. Amen.
So,
well, you know what? I got to have you back, because we could talk, and there's more.
there is much more.
There is much more. So we're going to do that. I'm going to have to get you signed up again to come back, and we're going to talk some more. But if you're interested in everything that Lius has to say and to share, please go to his website and connect with him. Also, he's on Instagram. His email is there. That's lca120@gmail.com. And his cell phone is there. The man is brave. He wants you to be able to contact him. The conversations he's having with parents, and I'm glad you're going into the schools and having those conversations. But I think and it's very important to me that some things we need to get back to the roots of.
Yes.
And the human connection, the human touch is very important in the communication process.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying we need to throw these away.
That's it. That's why it's techno-moderation.
Right. Techno-moderation.
I'm glad you said that, Tony.
And that is a brand of yours, techno-moderation. And that's what we're talking about today.
I'm not against technology. Let's make that very clear. I love technology.
No, we love technology. Both of us do, okay? And we use technology.
That's it.
But what we're saying in moderation, right?
That's it.
All right. So, again, I want to say thank you for joining me. And as ever, not only today, but every day, happy Love Day.